This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're doing another tablet Smackdown. This time we have the Toshiba Excite 10 on the left and the Acer Iconia Tab A510 on the right. Both of these are very new Android 10-inch tablets running Android OS 4.03 Ice Cream Sandwich, so you get the latest, greatest OS there. And they both have NVIDIA Tegra 3 quad-core CPUs, so they're quite fast. Also, they happen to be priced the same. They both list at $449 in the US, but you do get more storage in the Acer for that price. That's the 32 gig model with the Acer, which is currently the only Iconia A510 offered that storage capacity. And the Toshiba is priced at $449 for the 16 gig, $529 for the 32 gig, and it will be $649 for the 64 gig. Currently just the 16 gig is available though. So there you go, right off the bat, Acer gets a little extra point there for giving you twice the storage for the money. Now both of these tablets are expandable via SD card. In the case of the Toshiba Thrive, it actually has a full-size SD card slot, and that's located right here. We've got a card in there right now. You can see in that full-size slot. You can use a micro SD adapter if you'd rather use a micro SD card in there, but that allows you to take a camera card and just throw it right in here, so it's kind of convenient to have the full-size slot. The Acer, meanwhile, has a micro SD card slot that's under this little door here. And here we have two slots. One is for the micro SD card there, a little bit hard to see. And if it had 3G, which it doesn't, this would be the SIM card slot. But Acer always likes to build them ready for the future, and in case they set up a carrier relationship, they'd be able to just actually pop in a SIM card slot in there. There is no SIM card slot there right now, though, folks, so you can't do anything with 3G on this. Same is true of the Toshiba. Right now, it's also a Wi-Fi only tablet. Now, the two tablets have a lot in common, and that's what makes deciding between them a little bit difficult. Unlike the Asus Transformer Prime and Transformer Pad TF300, which have the convertible keyboard dock option to turn them into mini laptop netbook kind of form factor devices, these are meant to just be used as pure slates. Now, with either of these, you can use a USB keyboard, USB mouse, USB hub, in fact, and you can also use Bluetooth keyboards and mice with them, but you don't get that convertible option with a secondary bottom half like you do with the Transformer Primes. Both of these are running on the Tegra 3, as I mentioned. The Acer has the T30 CPU in it. It's clocked at 1.3 gigahertz. With one CPU running, can actually go up to 1.4 gigahertz. When multiple cores are running, though, it's 1.3. And with the Toshiba, we're assuming it must run on the T30L, which is a little bit lower power version. That is clocked at 1.2 gigahertz when multiple cores are running, and 1.3 when one core is running. DDR3 RAM on the Toshiba, though, versus DDR2 on the Acer Iconia Tab A510. The interesting thing is, though, that the Toshiba actually feels a little snappier, which really could have more to do with Toshiba's tuning of Android OS than anything else, but it also benchmarks a little bit faster. We're talking about 100 points faster on Quadrant and 200 points faster on Antutu, 3 frames better on OpenGL benchmark tests, so not a huge difference, but just because the clock speed is slower, apparently doesn't mean that the performance is going to be lower, so Toshiba a little bit snappier there. Both tablets have a fantastic feature called USB host, and that means you can plug in an adapter and use your USB peripherals, assuming there are drivers available in Android. Generally that means keyboards, mice, flash drives, hard drives that are formatted FAT32 for most tablets, but not all. Some of them do support Ntfs. Game controllers also work, and only if the manufacturer has written a driver will USB Ethernet adapters work. As we noted, Asus tablets do have an Ethernet driver that Asus provides, and that's a big strong point for those of you who really need that kind of fast wired data connection on the go. And Toshiba also scores a win there for having created a USB Ethernet driver, so you can indeed use wired Ethernet with this tablet if you have a USB Ethernet adapter like those meant for Ultrabooks or the MacBook Air. We tested it with our MacBook Air adapter and it worked just fine. The Acer does not have that feature, but it fights back with, first one thing, the USB host cable, which is a little annoying, hard to find thing. Micro USB here, full-size USB here, comes in the box. But the funny thing is that Acer actually doesn't give you the standard micro USB cable, the one that came with, say, your smartphone, if you have an Android smartphone or a Windows phone. So if you want to connect this Acer to your computer, you're actually going to have to use your phone's cable or go out and buy one. But at least those are pretty easy to find. Toshiba, like most tablets, comes with the standard USB cable to connect to your computer, and it comes with the charger, as does the Acer. But what what Acer does that we like a lot is they have a very good driver. They use Paragon for Ntfs drivers, so that means that you have a, say, a 500 or 750 gig portable hard drive formatted NTFS. You can use it with that because that file system works. And all the aliases work, so any file manager you use is going to be right where you expect it, mirroring the built-in file manager on the Acer. This Toshiba here, you only get FAT32. And if you're using a third-party file manager, you're not going to find it on the alias USB 0 or USB 1 like you will with the built-in Toshiba file manager. You have to take your file manager, navigate to the root level of your device, go to the mount subdirectory, that's /MNT, and there you'll see your SD card listed and your USB devices and all that kind of thing. Not a deal breaker there, but it's kind of nice when you don't have to actually do that extra bit of navigation that novices probably would have no clue to do. So NTFS for the win on the Acer, but USB Ethernet for the win on the Toshiba. Now before we get into additional features here, a big selling point for the Toshiba is going to be the fact that it's one of the thinnest and lightest tablets on the market. I think that's still a pretty popular thing, even if the new iPad actually got a little bit fatter and heavier than the iPad 2. We all appreciate carrying less stuff. So the Toshiba is 0.35 inches. It's, again, one of the thinnest on the market. And it's very light. It weighs 1.33 pounds. And yes, you will feel the difference if you've been holding them for an hour. If you pick them up initially, you'll notice it. You'll say, oh, that doesn't make much of a difference. But trust me, if you're going to surf the web for an hour or read an ebook, you'll notice that this is lighter. What else does it bring? You get a Gorilla Glass display. Always nice for peace of mind. And very nice attention to detail. It looks more expensively made than the other tablets on the market that it competes with, the other Tegra 3 tablets, that is. Except for the Transformer Prime. That one looks pretty good too. But you've got a kind of bevel to the glass here, which gives it a, almost like an HTC One smartphone kind of look. Very nice straight metal sides here, clean, rolled, so you're not going to cut yourself, they're not going to dig in. Costs more to machine things nicely. Big stereo speakers down here, large dock connector that Toshiba uses. And on the back we have a metal, aluminum back here. So overall, you're getting the skinny design and the higher quality materials and the Gorilla Glass for the Toshiba to make up for the fact that you only get 16 versus 32 gigs of storage for your money. Now if we take a look at the Acer weighs 1.54 pounds. Acer is not really into making light tablets. However, it feels very nice in the hand. It has nice curves over here, it's very ergonomic, and it has a soft touch plastic back, very grippy. It just feels nice to hold. So it's enjoyable and it's pleasant, but yeah, it's a bit heavy if you're going to hold it for a while. And you can see it has the straight sides here. Makes for a little bit better grip, not bad looking tablet. And on the sides here, we've just got rounded plastic, and that's your micro USB combo charging jack, and that's something worth mentioning here. With this guy, you can either use a USB peripheral with that USB host adapter, or you can charge the tablet. You can't do both at the same time. With the Toshiba, you're going to charge it in that docking port connector down here, and it has its micro USB port on the side, so you can do both those at once. I know for some of you that really matters because you're using some high drain peripherals. Stereo speakers, again, they're down here, so similar placement. Both of them are pretty good for stereo separation, I have to say, and you tend not to usually hold them right there so you don't block them unless you're resting it on your stomach. And the Iconia tab does not have Gorilla Glass. We assume it's hardened glass of some kind, but it's not Gorilla Glass. That said, we generally don't have a problem with our tablets scratching, even if they are not Gorilla Glass, but if you just toss them in the bag and you're not too careful about them, you're probably going to care more about having Gorilla Glass. Since we were just talking about those speakers, the Toshiba has SRS surround sound, and the Acer has Dolby 5.1 Dolby Mobile sound. Both of them are capable of outputting 5.1 audio over HDMI. We found that the Acer worked with our AV receiver over HDMI just right, and we actually got 5.1 audio when we were using a MPEG-4 test clip that was 1080p. But with the Toshiba, it reminded us of the Transformer Prime, having a little confusion there about what channel to output where. Our receiver said it was getting 5.1, but what we actually got was the center channel and the subwoofer. Now if we plug the Toshiba into a stereo TV via HDMI, it comes out right and left channel properly like it should, and stereo content, which is probably what most people have, outputs correctly too. But for those of you who are really big on the HDMI and you have 5.1 surround files, right now I'm telling you, the Acer looks like a little bit of a better bet there. It's handling receivers better. In terms of the speakers on the bottom, they both have that good speaker placement, but I give Acer the win for having a little bit fuller and louder audio. It really sounds very good for a tablet. It's pretty impressive. It makes watching movies very pleasant without using headphones or external speakers or anything like that. And great separation. The separation sound effect is more noticeable than it is on the Toshiba. The Toshiba also has volume boost function, which I turned on and it did help with volume. The surround sound's there, but it's not as noticeable. It's not quite as full. It's still a pretty decent sounding tablet, but boy, the Acer is one of the best we've ever heard. Now, in terms of displays between these two guys, they're both the same resolution. They're 1280 by 800 at 10.1 inches, which is your pretty standard Android 10-inch tablet resolution. Neither of these has IPS displays. In neither case are we missing the IPS display. They both have very wide viewing angles, very good contrast, nice colors. The Acer has a little bit more contrast when using a bunch of pretty geeky contrast tests. But the Toshiba fights back with having a more color-neutral display. That is to say, the Acer is a little bit cool. It's not excessively cool. We're not talking like super AMOLED, the whites look blue kind of cool, but it's a little bit cool. And I don't know if this is going to show through in our video or not, but you can see that the warm highlights, like in the building right over here, they really pop and shine. So the Toshiba is a little bit more pleasant, say if you're watching movies with a lot of flesh tones, that kind of thing. It makes people look a lot more vibrant and alive. But that said, some people do prefer the cooler look because it looks a little more high contrast, and that's pretty popular too. Personally, I would pick the warm tones in the Toshiba, but either way, you're doing very well. Again, great viewing angles on these, nice and sharp. Both are good for ebook reading. We'll bring up an ebook reader on each so you can see what they look like. And now we have the same book open. It's a Google Play book, public domain book, and you can see that both displays are sharp. They have good contrast, but once again, I would actually pick the Toshiba for having a kind of warmer, whiter, clearer background. A little bit reminds me of the iPad 2 and even the iPad with the Retina display in terms of just being very pleasing to look at and still having good contrast too. And again, in terms of overall responsiveness, they're both quite responsive. One thing that I have noticed, I think this has to do with the over-the-air firmware update that Acer released for the A510. The touchscreen has become a little bit insensitive. We had no problems with that at first, but after that over-the-air update, well, yeah. So if you see me tapping once or twice at the screen, that's why. Hopefully they will address that quickly. Anyway, they both zip quickly enough, and they both have fairly standard Android 4.0 interfaces. You have your app versus widget drawer here. And in both cases, you pretty much just have the standard set of Android widgets. You know, you can download third-party apps and widgets to your heart's content. But in terms of customization, Acer gives us the ring, which is this little dot right here, which you can disable, by the way, if you dislike it. But it's a quick launcher for some of your bookmarks, some of your apps, and you can control your volume right here. I really wouldn't call this a UI customization of Android. I know some people do, but really I think if it's a little utility, then they love it. And Toshiba, they do absolutely nothing. They don't even give you a clock weather widget or anything like that, so it's up to you to roll your own, find your own on the Android market, or Google Play Store rather. So those of you who like a pure experience will probably prefer the Toshiba, but honestly, Acer has hardly touched this guy at all. In terms of software bundles, they both come with ebook readers, Office suites. Acer gets the win for giving you the full version of Polaris Office HD for tablets that can also edit and create documents, not just view them. You get Quick Office Lite HD on the Toshiba with an offer to upgrade. That means you have to pay if you want to actually edit or create documents, or you can go to the Google Play Store and purchase the full Office suite of your choice if you need to actually edit and create documents. They run usually around 20 or 25 bucks. One other thing that I do have to mention is the back of the Iconia A510, the Acer. It does get hot when you're playing games. Now, if you're playing games for 15 minutes, a half an hour or so, there's one spot on the right around here or so, that's going to get up to about 106 or 110 degrees Fahrenheit, which is pretty toasty. The thing is, though, the soft touch finish and the plastic back do a fairly good job of dissipating it, so it doesn't feel hot and sizzly like it does with a metal back tablet or laptop. But still, for those of you who don't like that kind of heat, you have warm hands already, well, you're probably going to feel that heat. The Toshiba, though it's thin and metal backed, stays absolutely cool even when gaming. You might get a little bit warm, but really nothing to speak of there. Much cooler. Both of these have front and rear cameras. The Toshiba has a 2 megapixel front camera versus the one on the Acer. And as you imagine, it's just a little bit sharper and a little bit brighter, so for those of you who like to Skype a lot, that's something that's worth considering. On the back we have 5 megapixel cameras with both, and Acer puts it right in the middle where you would expect to find it. That's just lovely there. And Toshiba puts it out in the corner here now. It's kind of funny and strange, but actually it works out okay. I haven't had much trouble taking pictures with it, and you do get a flash here, which makes taking pictures in dark situations possible. If you try with the Acer in a dark room, you're going to get a picture of blackness pretty much. If you do it with the Toshiba, you'll get a noisy, grainy photo, but you will get a picture with discernible stuff in it. In terms of quality, they're about the same. The difference is, though, you're going to get 1080p video recording as an option on the Iconia tab. Not the world's greatest 1080p, it's 5 megapixel, it's a tablet. You don't often see great cameras, but it is an option there. And you're only going to get 720p, you can see on the Toshiba here. But the Toshiba fights back with the ability to actually take still photos while shooting video. Again, that's sort of like the HTC One series of smartphones. That's kind of a neat feature. Which is more important to you? You know better than I do. Both of these tablets can play 1080p MPEG-4 video, including high profile and multi-channel, as we mentioned. And if you want to see that in action, please watch our video reviews of each of these tablets individually and check out our written reviews as well. And likewise for gaming, they're Tegra 3s, they can play Tegra Zone games, the THD games, and they both play them very well, good performance. We've tested a bunch of different games on these, Riptide and Dark Meadow and some others, and they run just fine on both of them, and you can see those in action in our full reviews. So if you're a gamer, either one is definitely a good choice, with the caveat that the Acer is going to get toasty on the back when you play games. Both of these tablets have haptic feedback. That's something that got left out of the Asus Transformer Pad TF300, I guess for cost-cutting reasons. The Prime has it also, the Transformer Prime, but it was so weeny and weird. It was more like a fly buzzing once in a while, so I just turned it off. Both of these have reasonably good haptic feedback. Toshiba has excellent haptic feedback. It's a nice, full rumble. It doesn't get bzz, bzz, and just startle you and make you think your tablet's frying or something like that. The Acer has pretty good haptic feedback. It's pretty nice when you're playing games. You actually can feel the haptics in games, and also when you're touching the screen on the Toshiba. So I like what they've done with that a little bit better. In terms of keyboards, you get the standard Android keyboard with the Acer Iconia Tab A510. That's the basic Android keyboard, and you get Swipe on the Toshiba. Now you can download Swipe yourself if you visit the Swipe website and sign up, or load any third-party keyboard anyway that you prefer on these tablets. So I don't consider that a huge selling point right there. In terms of battery life, the Acer really wins. It has a 9800 milliamp 36.25 watt per hour battery versus the standard 2-cell 25 watt per hour battery that you see in most Android tablets that's in the Toshiba. So we're talking about 2 hours longer run times on the Iconia Tab A510. So for those of you who need to be away for outlets for long periods of time, that's a clear winner there for you with the Acer. Toshiba charges a little bit quicker, but it also has a smaller battery. That's one thing about the Acer Iconia Tab A510. That's a large battery to charge, and even with the unusual power supply they include to charge up that beefy battery, it takes a good while to charge it. If it's completely empty, I'd say it's about 4 hours to a full charge versus 2 hours for the Toshiba. In terms of software customization and geek factor, you can unlock the bootloader on the Acer, and you can root the Acer already. It seems that the older exploits actually work for that, and folks have been doing that happily. And the Toshiba Excite 10, from what I understand, folks have already managed to root that. I haven't tried it yet myself, but typically it hasn't been that hard to do with Toshibas. And lastly, just in terms of design and ergonomics, they both have very good controls that are easy to use. Nice, clicky buttons that aren't too hard to press, or aren't too easy to press. Good location for them. They both have rotation lock, hardware lock sliders on them. So by the way, some people aren't familiar with that feature. If suddenly your tablet doesn't rotate, you probably slid the unlock lock button, which is right here on the Acer. And these are your volume controls. And the power button is on the side right here. And with the Toshiba, right here we've got our volume controls, and this is our orientation lock right here, and this is our power button. So all your controls are pretty well clustered together. They do stick up, and they are separated enough you get some tactile feel that you probably won't be hitting the wrong thing. So that's our Toshiba Excite 10 versus Acer Iconia Tab A510 quad-core tablet Smackdown. Now also keep in mind, Toshiba has confused everybody with their names a little bit. This is the Excite 10, which is a quad-core tablet. This is not the Excite 10 LE that came out several weeks prior and is only a dual-core. So we're looking at both as quad-core tablets here at the same price tag. Honestly, no matter which one you choose, you're doing pretty well. Toshiba has its strong points for that warmer display, thinner, lighter design Gorilla Glass, and I find that a little bit more stable. When you're doing things like downloading a whole bunch of apps at once, it doesn't tend to freeze up on you, that kind of thing, which sometimes we see with ice cream sandwich tablets. But Acer fights back with really nice soft touch back, long battery life thanks to that big battery inside, and just all around a lot of good features for the price. Now they do face some strong competition with the Asus Transformer Pad TF300, which is a fairly thin and light tablet too, and that's also worth a look. If you check out our video reviews, you can see that one as well. But I put that more as in that's the tablet for convertible folks market. The upsell on these two guys, I'd say for the Acer Iconia Tab, you get bigger battery, a little faster CPU, and for the Toshiba you get the thin and light build quality Gorilla Glass metal body, a lot of the features that you would see on the more expensive Prime line in the Toshiba. So that's what you're getting for your extra $50 with both of these tablets versus the Transformer Pad TF300. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Don't forget to watch our video reviews of these tablets, read our written reviews, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.